Hey, mama. So I want to respond to this in two ways. I want to say that just because it looks like a man is leading well doesn't mean that he's actually leading well, right? Typically, how you do one thing is how you do everything. So if a man struggles to create cohesiveness between two different households with two different women, I would argue that he's not a good leader. Because it is challenging, right? I don't want to underestimate, right, how challenging it can be to respond to different women, different children, right? This is why men have to be better at being sexually disciplined if they don't want to have essentially a polyamorous lifestyle, right? Because that's what it is when we're having to respond to this household, that household, right? Like you're creating a polyamorous, even if you are not sexually or romantically involved as a man, you're creating a polyamorous lifestyle, right? So if a man doesn't want that lifestyle, right, he should be sexually disciplined. If he is in that lifestyle or has created that reality for himself, it's going to really require for him to be really good at being a leader. So he's going to have to be good with boundaries, right? Especially if he's transitioning relationships that were once intimate, romantic, or sexual to being non-romantic, non-sexual. He's going to have to be disciplined. He's going to have to know how to set boundaries. He's going to have to know how to respond to, what did mommy tell you to say when that happens? What do you say? Very good. So he's going to, one second, hold on. And so part of what's happening in your situation is that when men are in a situation where they're taking care of one child or one family versus another, it could be for a number of different reasons, right? It could be because of the woman that they're with. I don't know if he cheated on her or, stepped out of his relationship. And maybe it creates too much shame for him to show up for the child he created out of lies. It could be because she's uncomfortable or insecure, right? And so she creates competitiveness and divisiveness because of her insecurities. It could be he's limited in his resources and his energy. And when I talk about resources, I'm not just talking about financially, I'm talking about energetically. He maybe doesn't have the energy to respond to, again, he doesn't have the energy to respond to a polyamorous family dynamic, right? And so he's limited in his resources. So typically what happens when men are either limited in their resources or they're receiving pressure from the woman that they're involved with or the other baby mothers to create divisiveness and competitiveness, they will pick the child that is easiest to take care of, or the child who was there first, right? So again, but I say all of this just to provide context. I want to really, here's the larger message that I really want you to walk away with, is that it doesn't matter that he's taking care of his other child. He should be taking care of his other child, right? So we celebrate the fact that at least one family or child has what they need from the father, right? We celebrate that. It's not even about that. And I really want us to be mindful when we are in these situations to not be investing into a competitive or divisive mindset, right? Because if that's the energy that he or, the woman that he's involved with is creating, you don't have to feed into that energy. We celebrate a child getting what they need from their father. And we can talk about what your child is not getting without having to bring up what another child is, right? Because we also, again, when a man is not tending to his responsibilities equitably, it creates a void in his heart. And so even if he is showing up for his other child or children, he's not really truly fathering them from a place of wholeness, because he's going to always know and feel in his heart and in his mind that I have a child out there in the world somewhere that I'm not providing for. So it may perceptively look like he's doing for another child or children, but trust me, those children are not really getting a full whole father, because there's a part of him that is there's a part of him that has disassociated. Because in order to not show up for your children and to live, you have to disassociate, like in your heart. which means that there's a part of that man's heart that those children are also not getting, even if he's physically present, right? So I want us to remember that, and again, I hope this provides context for how men sometimes compartmentalize who they're going to show up for versus who they're not. It's really just a reflection of his lack of capacity and maturity and inability to respond effectively as a leader. Again, this is a telltale sign he's not a good leader, because a good leader would be able to respond to the circumstances that he has created. If a business has put itself in financial deficit, it should be able to respond to the financial deficit that it has created. And if it's not, what happens is CEOs are usually fired or replaced with CEOs or, leaders that can respond to the financial deficit. We see that with Red Lobster, right? Red Lobster was in bankruptcy. They hired a young Black innovative leader. What happened? That young Black innovative leader took them out of financial deficit, right? So when businesses are not doing well, they're going to replace their leaders with leaders who can respond. So if your baby daddy cannot handle the reality that he's created, he's not a good leader. I don't care what perceptively it looks like from the outside looking in. He's a fucking terrible leader. Period. Have a good day.